how to use the CameraRawFilter. So under the filter menu, you have several things you can do. For example, you can add different artistic filters where you can make your image look like it was made on a painting. You can change like the texture within your photograph so it looks like it was made with different artistic mediums. You could add this as like a different layer and then add a blending mode in order to have some of the contrast come through. So these are the different artistic filters that you can play around with. So that's one option for the filter menu. You can also add different blur filters. This can be helpful for like a background if you're trying to add Gaussian blur or lens blur to a background or something like that. If you're trying to sharpen an image, I would recommend Smart Sharpen, and then just increasing the radius amount slightly so you can see here if I zoom out. So we can find our image. So you can see on the edge here of the feathers what that Smart Sharpen would look like to add. So there it kind of was before, there it is after. So that might be something that you'll want to add to an image in order to increase the sharpness. So those are all options under the filter menu. One of the filters that I find most helpful is the CameraRawFilter. So that's what I'm going to be showing you today. So this simulates a raw file, which is the biggest file type that you could make in a camera in a photograph. Oftentimes in our class we use JPEGs, large JPEGs, but the raw files will usually open with this CameraRawFilter, but if they don't, you can always find it by going under the filter menu. So I like the raw filter because it just gives you all these options in one place. So you just scroll up and down. It's a very quick and easy way to see some of the things in your photograph. Like I really like adjusting just the highlights so you can see how much difference that makes without having to change the exposure of your entire image. Like that would be too bright, that would be too dark, but maybe she's too bright in this case, so then you can just get it just right by adjusting just the highlights or just the shadows. Maybe we increase the shadows, maybe we decrease the highlights. We make the image look a little bit more like a lower contrast image, or even increase the contrast from there, and now the image just has like ultimate detail in the highlights and in the shadows. So that's what's actually known as an HDR image and a high dynamic range, so that you can see detail everywhere. So again, we could like maybe lower the whites a little bit, increase the blacks, and again increase the contrast just to give it a pop. I can increase the clarity from here, increase the texture, and you're starting to see a big difference that it's making on some details like on her face. Maybe we can see like before and after. You can see the big difference you can make within a photograph very, very quickly. Okay, increase the vibrance, increase the saturation. Wow, we're really changing things. Here's the curves. You could increase just the highlights here, some of the shadows here. Oh, you could play around with the color. Oh gosh, look at all these options. Some of them are better than others. I'm just trying to make it as different as I can. You can add some noise reduction. You can add some sharpening here. Here you can take away just the reds. See when it catches up if it'll do that. I guess there's not many reds here. There's a lot of blues, so let's see what happens here. There you go. So you can take away the blue. Kind of like it less blue. You can change, and that's the saturation, but you can also change like the hue, so you could balance the reds. Maybe instead of being orangey, they'd be, I think that's more oranges, so we'll make this more yellow, so your face is changing. So you have to kind of find that color balance. And then, of course, adding a vignette is always a fun way to draw your attention in towards the middle, so it darkens the corners, the edges. So very quickly, oh, here's some more vignetting. Oh, there it goes. All right, so very quickly we have drastically altered our image without ever really doing much in Photoshop workspace. This is all within the Camera Raw workspace. So there we go. We click OK. We see our image. It takes a minute to process. So on this background copy, again, I always recommend doing it on a copy so that you can like turn it on and turn it off and see whether you like it better or not. Sometimes it's nice to zoom in and see what the advantage is close up versus further away. You can see there's a little bit of film grain there. It really changed and altered the colors. And you can also add a blending mode on this layer. So if I don't want that layer to be as intense, I can always lower the opacity and let the bottom layer kind of show through at different varying strengths, or I can darken it where it overlaps. That kind of looks more moody. Maybe lighten it so it feels more like an angelic portrait. That one kind of looks interesting. That's under the lighten blending mode. Overlay creates contrast. And maybe I'm getting kind of carried away here, but maybe I like the hard light blending mode, but I don't like how it looks in the highlights. So I might add, and this is not where I expected to go with this tutorial, but sometimes you just have to go with it. So I might add a mask onto this layer, and yeah, I think I'll show you how to do this in a separate video. So this is adding the CameraRawFilter in order to change everything, and pretty much everything, in one place.